My mother blamed me for not taking care of my sister. That night, my sister held my hand and whispered, "You are the person I trust the most." My name is Olivia Chen, but my friends and colleagues call me Liv. I am 33 years old, and my life is a non-stop grind at Harborview Emergency Department, one of the largest and busiest hospitals in Seattle, Washington. As a nurse practitioner, each shift is a battle against time, illness, and sometimes death. The job requires intense concentration, quick and precise decisions, and ironclad strength. But there are also meaningful moments of saving lives and the quiet joy of saving a life. But the price is sleepless nights, rushed meals, and physical and mental exhaustion. I still live with my parents and my 17-year-old sister Emily in a nice 2-story house in a quiet suburb north of Seattle. I'm single, and although I've had a few casual flings, nothing serious has happened, probably because my time is limited and my mind is preoccupied with work. My relationship with my mother, Grace Chen, a traditional and anxious woman, has been a bit strained lately, especially when the subject turns to Emily, my moody younger sister. And that tension came to a head one weekend evening a few days ago, right after family dinner. That evening's dinner was quite heavy. Emily barely said a word, just focused on her food. Her usually pretty and radiant face now had a hint of sadness. Her school results had also been a bit down, something my mother couldn't ignore. As I was cleaning the dishes in the kitchen, my mother walked in, arms crossed, a disappointed and somewhat angry look on her face. "Olivia," she began, her tone not pleasant. "You're the oldest. Why can't you pay more attention to your sister?" I stopped, turned to look at my mother, feeling a little uneasy. "What's wrong, Mom?" "What's wrong?" My mother raised her voice. "Haven't you seen how Emily has been lately? Her studies have declined, and her homeroom teacher has called to complain several times. She always looks sad and doesn't say a word. You live in the same house as her, and all day long you just focus on your work at the hospital. Have you ever really asked or cared about what's wrong with her? I don't think you know how to take care of your youngest sibling. How irresponsible!" Mom's words were like needles stabbing straight into my heart. Shock, hurt, and a feeling of helplessness, extreme fatigue. Me, the one who tried my best to balance 12-hour shifts, long sleepless nights worrying about seriously ill patients, trying to be home for rare family meals, trying to be a good sister, a companion to Emily? I asked Emily many times, but she just avoided it, saying she was fine. I knew something was wrong with her, but she refused to open up. And now, Mom blamed me for everything, thinking I was a heartless, selfish sister. I tried to explain, "Mom, I'm worried about Emily too. I've asked her many times, but she won't tell me. I think maybe she's having some trouble at school." "What about school?" my mother interrupted. "All of her friends are well-behaved and good at studying. She's the only one who's been down lately. She's probably caught up in some stupid love affair again. You're the older sister. You should know how to advise her. Or are you like her, only thinking about yourself?" I had nothing more to say. All my explanations were meaningless in the face of my mother's accusations and prejudices. I quietly turned away and returned to my room with a heavy heart. The pressure of being the eldest sister. It was an invisible burden that I had carried on my shoulders since I was very young. I was the first child, and according to my mother's traditional concept, perhaps partly influenced by my grandmother, I had the responsibility to set an example, to manage the house, to take care of my younger sister. My mother always expected me to be perfect, to be successful in my career, but also to be a capable woman who knew how to take care of my family. She often compared me to other people's children, girls who had more leisurely office jobs, had more time for their families, and perhaps had settled down sooner than me. My nursing career, while bringing me pride and financial independence, often became an excuse for my mother to complain. "What a busy job, with no fixed hours. We rarely have family meals together. Where do I have time to take care of my siblings and myself?" Those words, though not malicious, made me feel tired and guilty. I love my job. I love the lives I have the opportunity to save, but sometimes I wish I could split myself so that I could do my job well at the hospital and be the perfect sister and daughter that my mother wanted me to be. Emily, my younger sister, is a different story. She is smart, sensitive, and has an artistic soul like me when I was young. I used to love drawing, but had to put that passion aside to pursue the more stable nursing career that my parents wanted. We were very close. I was the one Emily trusted and shared all her school-age secrets with. But over the past few months, Emily has started to change. She has become much quieter, less talkative, and irritable for no reason. Her school results, which had always been excellent, have suddenly dropped significantly. Emily spends most of her time alone in her room, with the door closed, as if she has something to hide. She also uses her phone more secretly, and is often startled when someone suddenly walks into the room. I recognized those signs early on. I tried to talk to Emily many times, using the gentlest approach possible. "Sister, is there anything wrong at school? Do you need any help, Emily? If there's anything difficult, just tell me. I'm always here." But every time, Emily just shook her head, avoided my eyes, and replied perfunctorily, "I'm fine, nothing's wrong," or simply kept quiet, then found a way to escape the conversation. I felt helpless and worried. I knew something was wrong with my sister, something she was too scared or unwilling to share. But I couldn't break the wall of silence Emily had built around herself. And my mother's misunderstanding made things worse. Instead of trying to understand the root cause with Emily herself, instead of listening to my concerns, my mother only saw the surface, Emily's poor academic performance, her sullen attitude, and was quick to blame me. She thought that I, as the eldest sister, was not paying enough attention, was irresponsible, and let my sister do whatever she wanted. The conversations between my mother and I about this issue often ended in tension and heavy silence. I felt caught in the middle, worrying about Emily's unstable condition while facing increasing criticism and pressure from my mother. That night, after my mother's harsh reprimand, I returned to my room in a mood worse than the most stressful emergency shifts. I couldn't sleep. My mother's words kept piercing my mind like invisible knives. "I see that you don't know how to take care of your younger sibling." Had I really failed? Had I not fulfilled my responsibility as an older sister? The image of Emily with a sad, evasive expression kept appearing, making my heart even more tormented. Around midnight, as I was still tossing and turning in bed, trying to find some restless sleep, I suddenly heard a very light, almost inaudible knock on the door. I sat up, my heart pounding. "Who's there?" The door opened timidly, and Emily's small figure appeared in the doorway. She was wearing the bunny pajamas I had bought her for Christmas last year, her long hair falling down and covering most of her face. Her eyes were red and puffy. It was obvious that she had been crying a lot. Emily didn't say anything, just quietly walked into the room, then slowly walked to my bed. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her body trembling slightly. I was also silent, waiting. Maybe this was the moment she was ready to open up. Then Emily gently took my hand. Her hand was cold and trembling abnormally. She bowed her head, her small shoulders shaking slightly. After a long while, she looked up, looking at me with eyes full of fear and despair. Then she leaned very close, whispering in my ear, her voice hoarse and broken, as if each word was extremely difficult to utter. "Sister Liv, sister, you are the only person I trust in this world. I'm so scared, sister." Emily's whisper hit me like a thunderbolt. Fear? What was my little sister afraid of, and why did she trust only me? I hugged Emily, trying to give her some warmth and security. "What's wrong, Emily? Tell me. No matter what happens, I'll be there for you." Emily buried her head in my shoulder, sobbing. It took her a long time to speak again, her voice still shaky and full of pauses. She didn't tell me the whole story at once, but what she revealed was enough to leave me numb. There's someone at school," Emily began, her voice small. He's much older than me. He's not a student." My heart sank. An older man at my sister's school? At first, he seemed so nice to me. Emily sobbed. He often complimented me on how pretty I was, how smart I was. He said he understood me, but then he started making demands. He made me do things I didn't want to do. He said if I didn't listen, he would post my private photos online. He even threatened to hurt my friends. Emily's words hit me like a sledgehammer. My sister was being harassed, threatened, controlled by someone, and she had been living with this fear alone for so long. I don't dare tell anyone, Emily continued, her voice filled with despair. I'm afraid my parents won't be able to handle this shock. I'm afraid my mother will scold me again, saying it's because I'm naughty. I'm so scared, Liv. I don't know what to do. And then she looked up, looking at me with pleading eyes. Sister, promise me not to tell my parents about this, okay? At least not now. I beg you. I only trust you. Emily's desperate cry for help, her sobbing whisper in the dark, tore through all my fatigue, all my pride. There was no room for my mother's reproaches, no room for my own feelings. My top priority, my only priority, was Emily's safety and well-being. My sister was in danger, and I was the only one she trusted. I couldn't let her down. I held Emily tightly, patting her trembling back. Okay, Emily, I promise. I won't tell your parents if you're not ready, but you have to promise me you'll tell me the whole truth, no holds barred, and we'll figure this out together. I won't let anyone hurt you. Never. I barely slept that night. After Emily fell asleep in my arms, exhausted, I sat in the dark, trying to piece together the fragmented information she had just told me. An older man, not a student, who knew Emily from school, had initially been kind, then threatened and controlled her with private photos. This was clearly harassment and had the hallmarks of a crime. The next morning, I took a day off from the hospital. I needed all my time and attention to focus on helping Emily. I gently woke her up and prepared her a light breakfast. The atmosphere between us was no longer tense and distant like before. There was a new trust and connection that had been formed after the confession last night. In the safe space of my room, with the promise of no judgment or blame, I slowly opened up to Emily to tell her the full story in more detail, and the truth that emerged was more horrifying than I could have imagined. That person's name was Daniel, about 25, 26 years old, a temporary employee working in the library of Emily's school. He approached Emily with a gentle, intellectual appearance, often helping her find books, chatting about the literary topics that Emily loved. Gradually, he won the trust and admiration of a naive 17-year-old girl who longed to be understood. Then he began to act beyond the limit. Flirtatious messages, requests for private meetings, small gifts. Emily, both curious and a little scared, did not know how to refuse firmly. And then, one time when Emily was weak and agreed to go out for coffee alone with him, Daniel secretly took sensitive photos of her when she wasn't looking. Maybe photos of her in slightly sexy clothes or private moments. After that, he began to use those photos to threaten and control Emily, forcing her to continue meeting him, to follow his increasingly excessive requests. He also threatened to send those photos to Emily's friends, family, and even post them on social networks if she didn't listen. Emily has lived in extreme fear for nearly 2 months, not daring to say a word to anyone, even her closest friends. Her academic performance has declined, she is sullen and irritable, all stemming from this terrible psychological burden. Hearing the whole story, my anger flared up. A pervert, a devil in human form, had taken advantage of my innocence and hurt my little sister. But I tried to hold back. I knew I had to stay calm to be able to help Emily in the best way possible. Emily, I squeezed her hand. This isn't your fault. Not at all. You're the victim. That bastard Daniel deserves to be punished. And I promise you, I won't let him get away with it. A plan of action was quickly formulated. The first and most important step was to gather evidence. I carefully backed up all the threatening text messages Daniel had sent Emily, missed calls, any evidence of contact between the two. Emily also gave a detailed account of Daniel's encounters, words, and actions. Next, I decided not to confront Daniel directly myself. It was too dangerous for both me and Emily. Instead, I would seek legal and school intervention. I contacted a lawyer who specializes in child molestation and abuse cases, whom I met through a colleague at the hospital. She listened carefully to our story and gave us excellent legal advice. She also emphasized the importance of reporting the incident to both the police and school authorities. That same day, Emily and I, accompanied by our lawyer, went to the local police station to report the incident. At first, Emily was very scared and embarrassed, but with me by her side and the lawyer's reassurance, she courageously told the whole story clearly. The police accepted the report and promised to investigate immediately. At the same time, I also wrote an official letter, along with the collected evidence, to the principal of Emily's high school, requesting the school to take strict measures against Daniel and ensure absolute safety for Emily, as well as other students. During this process, I also discovered a detail that made me even angrier. It turned out that before Emily, there was at least one other female student who had been harassed by Daniel in similar ways. The incident had been reported to a homeroom teacher, but for some reason, it was handled in a perfunctory and ineffective manner, and Daniel continued to work in the school library. The school's negligence indirectly enabled Daniel to continue his criminal behavior towards Emily. The fight for justice for Emily was not easy. There were times when I felt tired and wanted to give up, especially when faced with the initial indifference of some people in the school board or the complicated legal procedures. But every time I saw Emily's eyes full of hope and trust, I had more strength to continue. And then, justice began to be served. After receiving our report and evidence, the police quickly took action. Daniel was summoned for questioning. Faced with irrefutable evidence, he could not deny his guilt. The school, under pressure from our lawyers and the threat of a negligence lawsuit, was forced to immediately suspend Daniel and conduct a full internal investigation. News of Daniel's case quickly spread throughout the school, and surprisingly, 2 other female students also bravely stood up to report his harassment. It turned out that Daniel was a wolf in sheep's clothing, taking advantage of his position to approach and harm many students. The incident caused a huge stir in the community. The school board, after realizing the seriousness of the problem and the weakness in its human resources management, had to publicly apologize to the victims and their families, and pledged to tighten its recruitment and supervision processes, as well as increase measures to protect students. As for Daniel, he faced the law. He was sentenced to prison for multiple counts of harassment and intimidation of a minor. The man who caused fear in Emily and many other female students finally paid the price for his crimes. During the process of facing and resolving this crisis, something unexpected happened. A change in my mother's perception. At first, when I was forced to tell part of the truth, just saying that Emily was in big trouble at school and needed my help, not daring to tell her the details about Daniel for fear of shocking her, my mother was still skeptical and blamed me for exaggerating. But when Daniel's case broke out, when she saw the seriousness of the problem that Emily had to face alone, when she witnessed the strength, determination, and boundless love that I had for protecting my sister, my mother seemed to have awakened. She cried a lot. She cried because she loved Emily, because she feared for her youngest daughter's safety. And she cried because she regretted it. Regret for misunderstanding me, for unintentionally putting more pressure on both of our daughters when we needed understanding and support the most. One evening, after things had calmed down, my mother came into my room, hugged me, and apologized. "Liv, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I didn't understand you, or your sister. Thank you. Thank you for being strong and protecting Emily." That belated apology, although it could not erase all the hurt, opened up an opportunity to mend our mother-son relationship. My father, although still maintaining a quiet and somewhat strict appearance, I could feel the change in his eyes when he looked at me. A respect and, perhaps, a little quiet pride. Emily's recovery process took time and patience. She still had to attend psychotherapy sessions to overcome her trauma. But with the love and care of her family, especially me, Emily is gradually regaining her smile and confidence. She is no longer sullen and quiet. She started to share more, to be more open. And the relationship between my sister and I became closer and more attached than ever. Emily truly considered me her hero, the strongest support in her life. She said that without me, She didn't know what would happen to her. After that incident, my family also seemed to have positive changes. We learned to communicate with each other more openly, to listen and understand each other's feelings more, instead of just judging or imposing. I also boldly set clearer boundaries with my mother about my role and responsibilities in the family, and surprisingly, she respected those. Looking back, I realized that Emily's whisper in the dark of that night was more than a cry for help. It was a wake-up call, a reminder of the power of trust and sisterhood. Taking care of your sister is not just about feeding her, clothing her, or reminding her to study. Taking care of her sometimes means listening with all your heart, recognizing even the smallest signs of abnormality, and most importantly, being ready to stand up and fight to protect her from any danger, no matter what. Sisterhood, which seemed fragile in the face of life's pressures, turned out to be the strongest bond, the boundless source of strength that helped us overcome the storm. And I know that, no matter what the future holds, I will always be the person Emily trusts the most, and she will always be the little sister I love and am willing to do everything to protect. Parents' unspoken pressures and expectations can sometimes create invisible barriers to communication and understanding with their children, especially when they are in their sensitive teenage years. Have you ever found it difficult to share your real problems with your family because you were afraid of being judged or not understood? And if you were an older sister or brother, what would you do if you sensed that your younger sibling was in serious trouble but refused to ask for help? How does the power of trust and listening play a role in helping loved ones overcome difficulties? Please share your experiences and thoughts.